Peace, love, and light. Welcome to the existing changing experience that is the Institute of Biblical Studies and Higher Consciousness. And I am Pastor Walker, the pastor, the founder, the teacher here, your guide on the road to spiritual excellence and evolution. We are grateful for the blessing of this week and everything that has come into alignment, for all the needs supplied and heart's desires granted. And I'm definitely excited to be back with you this week. For those of you that join in with us on Zoom, and for those that view this video after it's posted to YouTube, I am grateful for you. And I just humbly ask that if this message, this lesson, or the lessons on my channel are a blessing to you, to please like, share, and subscribe. And should you feel moved to be a gift to this work, to be upliftment, especially financially, you can cash out us at IBSHC, money sign IBSHC. That's India Bravo Sierra Hotel Charlie, IBSHC. I'm grateful to be here again another week. This week we're gonna finish our lesson topic. I am very excited about those that are still receiving the inspirational videos and viewing them. Those that are whose lives are uplifted, and those of you who receive this information and verify it and apply it to your life. I'm excited for the change in your life because I don't declare to know it all, to have all the answers. I'm just simply trying to share with you those things that are revealed to me. And I'm not going to sit here and be all spooky and say, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and he poured this into my soul. No, sometimes my spirit will have me listen to certain things and I will get an inspiration and be like, never looked at that. Let me check that out. And so once I research it and find it to be credible, voila, I'm here with you, family. So I'm grateful for those of you that support on a weekly basis or whenever you view these videos. I just humbly ask that you like, share, and subscribe it so that others can have this information revealed to them. Now we're going to go ahead and affirm in, and we're going to pick back up with our lesson topic on cargo cults, the foundation of religion, or the cornerstone. I apologize, the cornerstone of religion. So let us affirm. Creator of all, we give all esteem and honor for the life source and spark that we have, which is our spirit, that fire that is given from eternity, full of consciousness and intelligence and love and power and peace and all the proper attributes of positivity and upliftment. We're grateful for every door open and every way made, for every answer to prayers and questions given. Thank you for Source releasing to us and the universe releasing to us those things which are required for our lives and we desire for our lives. For excellent health, strength, intelligence, wisdom, great understanding, overstanding. We humble ourselves and ask for, or we humble ourselves and repent for any transgressions or divine law that we have transgressed. But we confess that we have no sin. And I humbly ask that you think through my mind and speak through my mouth those things which are edification to those listening. I open my vessel up to my higher self, to the set apart spirit or the spirit of the Most High, to the spirit of my ancestors, the angels, and spirit guides alike. And I'm grateful for the move of this word in the lives that it would change. I speak these things in the name of the Creator, that it comes before the throne of the Almighty power. So be it. Again, welcome to the existence changing experience that is the Institute of Biblical Studies and Higher Consciousness. And again, I am Pastor Walker, and it's my pleasure to be here to give you the word as it's given to me. We started last week with talking about cargo cults, in parentheses, the cornerstone of religion. And I want those of you that have your Bibles, your scriptures, your iPods, iPads, iPhones, Samsungs, laptops, desktops, however you view the word and read the word, and however you're viewing this video, to please follow me to James, the first chapter, verses 25 through 27. But whoso looketh to the perfect law of liberty and continue with therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed, or prosperous in his deed. If any man among you who seem or you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is in vain. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep thyself unspotted from the world. He said, whosoever looks into, searches out the law of freedom, the law of liberty. The person that seeks out the law of liberty not only seeks it for themselves, but they seek it to help others. That's why he said pure religion and undefiled is to visit the fatherless, to see about their affliction, and the widows, and to keep yourself unspotted from the world. Now, we have to live in this world, and there are certain things that we have to do to survive in this world. So being unspotted from the world means we stay unspotted from its influence, not from the interaction that we have to do in this flesh. Now, we started out last week opening this thing up with cargo, the definition of a cargo code. I'm going to read it again. Cargo codes emerges from Melanesia after encountering technology, advanced cultures like World War II, blended indigenous beliefs with Christian elements, creating unique religions focused on receiving cargo or goods through rituals, or those of us that have been led to serve a God with no name and then a God with a name. It is all that we will receive blessings from that God, not knowing and realizing that we're more connected to that God, or the God, the supreme creator. I'll say that, because there's a God that we've been led to worship that we're going to go into in probably in the next couple months, but that we think we're worshiping the creator of all, the chief consciousness, the supreme consciousness. But we do so sending out our energy, our praise, our anxieties, all of these things to feed these entities, hoping to get a blessing, hoping to get a gift from them. Now, if your God is almighty, all powerful, and all loving, and loves you, and you're struggling, you're being abused, and all of these things, you better check your God. He's not fighting for you. It's not fighting for you. Or have you laid hold on the power that's supposed to be in you to defend yourself and provide for yourself? I'm going to let that sit right there. And we talked about how the cargo codes influence religion, because the religion that you are in comes from the cargo codes from ancient times. And I gave an example when I talked about Men in Black and how the little man was in the little locker, how they worship Agent K. And then he gave them light, which was a watch, and then a little card that they had their little commandments on, and they was living that baby out until he took the cards and the watch. Then they began to cry out, and then Jay put his watch in there and gave them a new light, and they began to worship Jay. It's the same thing. I hit on it last week how the Anunnaki came here, and how man, the humanoid, what they call it, hominid, was modified with their DNA, and how Enki influenced their DNA further to give them limitless potential. And when he revealed it to Adamu and Titi, Adamu did not look with the fear and reverence in his eyes when his brother Enlil came to the garden, the so-called Garden of Eden. It wasn't a garden. It was a laboratory. But we don't talk about that. And I talked about where the Anunnaki came from and their whole story of coming from Nibiru to this planet to mine gold for their so-called ozone layer like we got. Okay. So I'm not going to go back into all of that. We're going to pick back up this week because there's a chief. Now, I don't want to say a chief, but that was a Anunnaki that stood out before everybody. And I apologize this week because I said I was going to get my History of God book. If you give me just a second, let me see if I can get it out because I want to go into this. Apologize. It's in my bag with all my books in. And I forgot to get it out, and I just remembered now. Let me see if I can recover the book. Let's see if I can recover it out of here. I hope that it's in here. No, it's not. That means it's still packed up. It's still packed up with a lot of my books that I still haven't unpacked yet out of boxes because I had to go get them. So please excuse me for that, but we're going to go on anyway. There was one particular Anunnaki that stood out to everyone because it was said, according to the Sumerian text, that when the Anunnaki was created, that their father was grieved at the noise that they were making and what they were doing, and he wanted to destroy them. But their mother, Tiamat, which TT was kind of named after, she loved her children, and she reached out to them and told them what their father's plan was. Now, this is kind of where Greek mythology gets the story of Kronos and Zeus and his siblings. So, Enki, when he got word of it, he did an enchantment and put him to sleep, and he killed him in his sleep. After he killed him in his sleep, Tiamat got upset because y'all done killed my man. So she got with the Titans, per se, that she was with, and got her monster army together and got ready to go wipe out the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki had a meeting, and all of them were kind of afraid to go up against her because they're like, we can't match that power. Even though Enki took out the husband. So one Anunnaki stood out among the rest and said, listen, I'll fight her for y'all, but after I fight her for y'all, I want y'all to declare me king of this world, of this planet, or king, per se. And Anu, the high father, the high god, the king, the father of Enlil and Enki, he said, okay. And Enki told him, all right, go do it. So he battled with Tiamat, overcame her, and it said that the earth was built from her remains. And that Anunnaki, so-called god, his name was Marduk. Now, Marduk, or Marduk, however you want to pronounce his name, is in your Bible. But they disguised his name. Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, verse 2 says this: declare ye among the nations, and publish, and set up a standard. Publish and conceal not. Say Babylon is taken. Bel, B-E-L, is confounded. Merodach, or Marduk, okay? Merodach, or Marduk, is broken in pieces. Her idols are confounded. Her images are broken in pieces. Now they tried to say her, but it was him. It was he. It was him. Jeremiah the 51st chapter, verse 44. And I will punish Baal, B-E-L, in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of who? Now it said her. Oh, I get the her. The her was Babylon. Okay. Marduk was broken to pieces. Her idols, Babylon's idols. Babylon is to her. I take that back. Was confound. Her idols were confounded. But I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he has swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together anymore unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fail. They were worshiping Marduk. As a matter of fact, the Anunnaki went to war because Enlil was supposed to turn over rulership of this world because his time was up. But he would have to turn it over to Marduk because Marduk was the chief grandson because he was the son of Enki, which was the older brother. And it was a deal was made that when his time came, he was supposed to rule. And Enlil didn't want to let it go. So there were a lot of wars that were fought. And a lot of them wars that you read in the Old Testament came from the Sumerian and Mesopotamian text of the wars of the Anunnaki. And the nations shall not flow together anymore unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. Baal refers to several figures and concepts. Most prominently, the ancient Mesopotamian deity Marduk or Marduk, identified as a Lord, lowercase Lord. In Isaiah, the 46th chapter, verse 1, Baal bowed down, Nebo stupid, Stooped, not stupid, stupid, like he stooped down. Their idols were upon the beasts and upon the cattle. Your carriages were heavily loaded. They are a burden to the weary beast. Again, Marduk was very significant in ancient times. Isaiah 39, verse 1. At that time, Marduk Baladan. Okay, two words. The son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that he had been sick and was recovered. Again, 2 Kings, 20th chapter, verse 12. At that time, Barodak Baladan, or Marduk Baladan, son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present to Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. Now, see how they wrote that two ways? It's the same story, same reference, but Council of Nicaea decided to throw a twist in there. They didn't call him Merodach Baladan this time. They put Berodach. See? Because that's where a lot of this confusion and this tomfoolery come from. Because this Council of Nicaea decided to write one Bible for the Pope of Rome and the Caesar of that time, which was that Caesar name? I'll come back to that. But they decided they made changes. Now, false god. The Bible presents Marduk as a false god, contrasting with the sovereign God of Israel, whose judgment on Babylon reveals the weakness of its gods. But the God of Israel wasn't the chief God, according to Psalms 82 and 6. And there was Julius Caesar at that time. Now, According to the Enuma Elish, writers were aware of Babylonian myths like the Enuma Elish, which elevated Marduk as creator and king of gods, reinforcing Babylonian imperial claims. Now, the symbol of idolatry. The prophecies against Marduk served as warnings against idolatry and placed human power structures above divine authority. And that was only after the so-called God of Israel came in to come in power. In essence, scriptures highlight Marduk as supreme, but ultimately impotent God, of Babylon, whose defeat symbolizes the ultimate triumph of the God of the Bible. Because the God of the Bible ended up trumping everybody, especially when they decided to take everybody to monotheism. Because even the first so-called Hebrews, and we're going to deal with that too in the next couple months, they were not monotheistic. They were henotheistic. They understood that the other gods existed. Okay. But their God, they held him higher than all the rest. Now, as writings were written over time, he was wrote into supreme authority, and the other gods were wiped out to cause people to not acknowledge them as much. But they were henotheistic. Now, if the God of Israel, if he was the only supreme God, then why would he say, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other gods or Elohims before me? Because other gods or Elohims exist. Man wrote the other deities out and then served it to you in a monotheistic way. That's why Pharaoh Akhenaten was ousted out of Egypt, because he was trying to bring everybody to the one worship of Amun Ra, and they weren't having that, which he later became who we call Moses, Moshe. Marduk is the supreme deity of Babylonian mythology, the patron god of Babylon, known as the king of gods, who rose from a local deity to become a head of the Mesopotamian pantheon, famously creating the cosmos by slaying the chaos monster Tiamat in the creation epic Enuma Elish. Symbolizing order, justice, healing, and magic. He is also called Baal, in parentheses, Lord, and associated with the planet Jupiter, wisdom, father of Nabu, and storm god aspects with his grand temple Etaminaki, possibly inspiring the Tower of Babel, which he did. Because when Enlil wouldn't turn over rulership to him, Marduk, who had chosen an earthly wife, because he knew he was not going to rule in the Nibiru anymore, because he's been on Earth so long. So he knew that he wasn't going to never get a chance as long as Enlil was in the way to rule as a king in the Nibiru. So he was like, I'm going to be the king of the earth then. And he took a wife from the earth, which sparked the so-called sons of God looking upon the sons of men. When the Ijiji heard that Marduk had took an earthly wife, they were on Mars. And 200, they weren't no angels, no watchers. They decided to come to Earth from Mars to the wedding of Marduk. And they said, we're going to take us wives because we want families. We want our lineages to go on. So 200 of them came to Earth and took earthly wives and threatened war, because they told Anu, you let your grandson get an earthly wife, why we can't have them? And Anu, Enki, and Enlil had to agree. And they gave them a portion of land in that region. But getting back to Marduk, when they was going to war, because Enlil didn't want to release the reins, he got with the humans because the humans love Marduk, and they built that tower. And no, God did not confuse their languages because they were trying to build a tower to heaven to fight God. Marduk had them raise that up in the excellence of his name. And Enlil wasn't having that. So he let his sons unleash the weapons of terror, or nuclear missiles per se, and dropped them babies down to the earth and burnt the tower and killed the people that was helping Marduk and trapped Marduk in a pyramid. Now, Marduk's father is the Mesopotamian god Enki, also known as in Babylonian text as Ea, from whence they get the first two letters of earth. So he's sometimes referenced as Ea Enki, the god of wisdom. He was the serpent spoken of in Genesis, in the so-called Genesis story. And Lil called him a serpent because the serpent was the ancient symbol of wisdom. And he had given Adamu and Titi wisdom of who they and what they were. He spilled the beans. He was the one that cared for the humans. And when Enlil was putting them in famines and droughts, he was the one that was feeding them low key. And it was his son, Atrahasis, whom we call Noah, that helped preserve life when the so-called flood came to the earth, or when the flood came to the earth. Now, Ea, the god of wisdom, fresh water, and creation, with his mother being Demkina, or Ninhursag in some traditions. In Babylon mythology, now y'all can look this stuff up. I ain't putting out nothing that you can't go look at. I got the Lost Book of Enki. So you can look this stuff up. Particularly the Enuma Elish, Ea fathers Marduk, who rises to become the supreme god after defeating the chaos goddess Tiamat. That was the deal that they made. Father, Ea Enki, god of wisdom, water. Mother, Demkina, Ninhursag, goddess of fertility and motherhood. The origin, Marduk's lineage connects him from the earlier Sumerian deities, as Ea was the prominent Sumerian god. Significance, as the son of Ea, Marduk inherited wisdom and eventually became king of the gods, creating the cosmos from Tiamat's body. And yes, again, according to those scriptures, he is in your Bible. Now, the sons of Anak, we still talking about the Anunnaki, the sons of Anak that were referenced in the Bible. So if the Anunnaki weren't real, then where the sons of Anak come from? Numbers, the 13th chapter, verse 33. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which came of the giants, and were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. In other words, the Anunnaki were tall; they were big people. We shrunk over time due to the modification of our DNA, but 7 feet plus men, and I'm not talking no low plus. Were these Anunnakis, were these sons of Anak, where you think Goliath came from and his brothers? It was their lineage. All the giants didn't come from those sons of God procreating with the daughters of men and creating men of renown, or giants that was eating men and animals. The Anunnaki were already big men, big people anyway. And the first so-called humans were too. And they lived a long time until our DNA was tethered off and our lifespan was shortened. Deuteronomy, the first chapter, verse 28. Whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying, the people is greater and taller than we. The cities are great and walled up to heaven. And moreover, we've seen the sons of Anakims there, which is why I don't understand. I'm trying to comprehend how in the world did the Israelites, so-called, defeat these men of great stature with technology and extreme war ethic and skill. And their city walls were high. Joshua 15th chapter verse 14. And Caleb drove thence the three sons of Anak, Sheshai, or Shishai, and Ahiman, and Talmai, the children of Anak. So if the Anunnaki weren't relevant, if they weren't real, why are they talking about the sons of Anak? Judges, the first chapter, verse 20. And they gave Hebron to Caleb, and Moses said, and he expelled, as Moses said, and he expelled thence the three sons of Anak. So he gave Caleb that land, and he supposedly destroyed the sons of Anak. Those three huge giant men. But that's enough of that. Let's talk about how did religion begin. Now that book is there's a book out called How the Religions, how is it? How the Great Religions Began, or something like that, with Joseph Gare. And then A History of God by Karen Armstrong. Look those books up. Now, how the religions began. Organized religion started with the transition to settle agricultural societies, Neolithic revolution, okay, in parentheses, development from earlier spiritual practices to bind larger, more complex groups, justifying social hierarchies and manage collective aims. With evidence like Gobekli Tepe, Gobekli, next word Tepe, predating farming, suggested that deep roots of human need for explanation and cohesion. These systems evolved from shamanism and ancestral worship into structured beliefs with priests, temples, laws, doctrines to unite communities and legitimize rulers. That's why religion was created. Because every village had a shaman. And the elders, the ancestors, worked along with the shamans or the medicine man, or however you want to, the witch doctor, however you want to classify them. And they kept ancient key secrets and they taught the people. And the people prospered and walked in power back then. But they decided to get us away from the spiritual into a structural system for control. For what? Into structured beliefs with priests, temples, laws, and doctrines to unite communities and legitimize rulers. Sedentary lifestyle. Moving from nomadic hunting, gathering to farming led to permanent villages, requiring cooperation and shared belief system for community survival and complex goals, such as storing foods and building. Now, don't forget, the first Homo sapien were farming and doing all this. They were trained by the Anunnaki to do all of this, to farm, to raise the animals and all that. And they brought tribute back to Enki, Enlil, and Anu. That's how they get the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. Okay? Anu and his two sons. And all the other Anunnaki, so-called gods, per se, received tribute from the Homo sapiens that raised crops and farmed animals. Now, cognitive needs. Humans sought explanation for natural phenomena such as lightning, the sun, death, etc., etc., and developed rituals, idols, and sacred sites to systematize these beliefs. That's why it is written that so-called Yahweh said, thou shalt not be in all the moon and be dismayed and all this stuff, lest you be led to worship the moon and the stars. Don't be dismayed at them. Because why? Men needed an explanation. And some men got explanation from the Anunnaki rulers. Cultural innovation. Religion acted as a cultural tool similar to tools or agriculture to promote cooperation and enforce social norms through concepts of supernatural punishment, reducing cheating. You had to be made to be afraid of a God, so you act right. Now, the early stages and evidence of religion. Paleolithic, Paleolithic roots. I'm sorry. I know I'm not sorry. Excuse me. Paleolithic roots. I be struggling with these words sometimes. Practices like burying the dead and carving or creating a cave art show in early spiritual thought. According to Paleolithic roots, practices like burying the dead and creating cave art shows, early spiritual thought. They wrote, that's why you had the hieroglyphs on the walls of caves. But burying the dead came a little bit later because man used to burn bodies. And the reason you burn a body is to release the body's life force and energy from this world. Because there's a silver cord connected to your soul, your soul and this body. So when you go into the astral plane, when you go to sleep, your soul finds its way to your body with this cord, this silver cord. Only by burning the body is that silver cord diminished and your energy is released. That's why the rulers of this world, through the influence of the demiurge, the one who so-called created this realm, when they put you 6 feet in the ground in a coffin, in a daggone vault, it traps your energy. It keeps you connected. Your soul connected to that silver cord, to that body that's in the ground. That's why you have spirits wandering the earth, because they haven't been cut off from here to try to get out of here. But when you burn the bodies, you release the energy. Gobekli Tepe. This pre-agricultural site, 9,000 BCE, shows organized large-scale religions, construction before farming, implying complex spiritual needs even in hunter-gatherer era societies. Neolithic development. The shift to agriculture accelerated the development of formalized religions. Now, everything is putting back to agriculture. Why? Again, I reiterate, because they were trained by the Anunnaki to farm, and they brought tribute to the Anunnaki gods. Formalized religions with specialized roles, the priests, and established places of worship. The evolution into organized system, doctrinal phase. Immersive spiritual experiences became systematized into doctrines and rituals, often involving priests and shamans. State formation. Religions became intertwined with governance used by rulers, pharaohs, Chinese emperors, Greek Caesars, and all that stuff, to unify populations and legitimize rule, often involving laws and taxation. Global spread. Major traditions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, and Judaism began to organize and spreading during the Axial Age, which was 800 to 200 before the Common Era, developing core texts and concepts. In essence, organized religion arose as a social solution to challenges and opportunities presented by large, set of complex human communities, blending innate spirituality with cultural needs for order, meaning, and unity. Now, where your current main three religions come from, because Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism, they were more or less like ways of life. Judaism, Hebrewism, Christianity, Islam, those were fashioned after the rule of the Roman Catholic Church, who seized power from the Caesar, and the Pope became the main ruler. And as a result of that, they created the doctrines and the stipulations for those religions, to the which those that are in those religions still follow them today. You were not born to be a Christian. Christianity was enthroned and thrusted upon the people through the Inquisition period, a 200 to 400 year period where the Roman Catholic Church inquired whether you were a Christian or not, whether you served the Pope of Rome or the Pope of Constantinople. Because even if you served the Pope of Constantinople, you got tortured, you got executed. Christianity was created through fear of death and torture for over 200 years. Islam, Hebrewism, and Judaism, they've just fell in line with it. They're all the same, but three different names. But the cargo coat is where it all began. It began with the Anunnaki. Now the demiurge and the archons are utilizing it as a trap and a means to keep you feeding them your energy, your fears, to keep you feeding them your soul, your worship, and it keep you separated from the God that is in you so that you can't evolve and break out of the system, break out of the matrix. You may think I'm crazy for saying what I'm saying, but go back and start researching this stuff. Look it up, because it's my job to make you aware, but it's your job to decide what you're going to do. Barbecue mildew, learn the information and get your butt up out of here. Stop being a battery. The Matrix, Terminator, they all represent a grander scheme, from the demiurge and the archons, which when you ascend out of here, if you don't die consciously, and remember to don't go into that light, go into the darkness, because if you go into that light, you're going to get reincarnated here. And Bill Gates and all of them are working on these cities, these robot cities and smart cities, so that when you get your butt back here, they're going to find a way to keep you trapped here, because they have a covenant with the archons and with the demiurge. This has been the existence changing experience that is the Institute of Biblical Studies and Higher Consciousness. I am. My name is. Because who I am is greater than what my name is. My name is Pastor Walker, and it's been my pleasure to give you the word as is given to me. Let's affirm out. Creator of all, we give all esteem and honor to you. We thank you. We thank you for the life spark and the strength and knowledge and wisdom and power to come into truth, to break the veils, to transcend the limitations placed in this realm, in this dimension. We're grateful for higher consciousness and greater knowledge and information and wisdom. Let us embrace it and be empowered by it. Now, as we depart from this Zoom, we're never away from your presence, because you are us and we're you. And we know that you go with us and keep us. And we're grateful for you going with us and keep us till we come together again. We give all honor and esteem to the Creator of all, to our ancestors, the angels, spirit guides. So be it. May the Creator bless you and keep you. May He cause His countenance to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May He show you His mercy and bid you His peace. Peace, love, and light. See you next week for more of the same. Thanks for tuning in. Peace, love, and light.